So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here today for this very important occasion. My name is Carleen Weshen, and this is my youngest grandchild, Dempsey Foxborn. She's a big reason why I'm here. I am the current chair of the League of Women Voters Ad Hoc Redistricting Committee, a group of incredibly dedicated women who have been meeting every Monday morning for the last 2 years. I'm also the former grassroots organizing director for the Wisconsin Fair Maps Coalition, which is a collaborative effort of dozens of pro-democracy nonprofit organizations working together to bring about an independent, transparent, and inclusive redistricting process to create voting maps that fairly represent all Wisconsin's residents. Many of the League Redistricting Committee members are here with us today. Also here today is Gisela Flores and Nicole Gabriel, the current organizing director and grassroots organizer for the Fair Maps Coalition. Please wave so people can see who you are. Thank you so much for your work, and let's give them another big hand. Thank you for your dedication to this task, even when it's been difficult and sometimes contentious. I'd also like to recognize that there are several state legislators who have joined us here today. Senators Jeff Smith and Deb Andraka, Representative Deb Andraka, Representative Fran Hong, awesome, and I thought I saw Senator Chris Larson. Okay, he's here somewhere, was here, okay. And also know that a couple of other people were going to speak today, but they had some in-district things come up. Senator Mark Spreitzer and Representative Ahmad Rivera-Wagner. They wanted to be here, but called yesterday and this morning and said, oh, I can't. So we appreciate that they were willing to join us as well. So during my years with the Fair Maps Coalition and as the chair of this great league committee, I've worked with activists and volunteers from across the state. I learned that the people in our state, no matter their political leaning, do not feel seen or heard by their state legislators. Issues they care about, from clean water and air to access to affordable health care and adequately funded schools, common sense, gun violence prevention regulations are not being addressed by our state legislature. Historically, Wisconsin's gerrymandered legislative maps made legislators unaccountable to them, their constituents. In February of 2024, Governor Evers signed fairer state legislative maps into law. The result, the highest turnout of voters in Wisconsin history. More candidates running for office than in a new state legislature with a more balanced representation. And while we have fairer legislative maps now at the state level, there is no guarantee they will be fair after the 2030 census when, if the process remains the same, the party in power will draw new voting maps. Wisconsin voters do not want legislators creating voting maps. That's why we need to make a change now, before 2030. Ironically, when I went to write my remarks for today, I found a copy of the testimony I delivered before the State Senate Committee that was considering a modified Iowa bill almost exactly 2 years ago. That happened to be October 19th of 2023. I said then, and I quote, "What's the rush? The next census takes place in 2030. And voting district maps will be created in 2031. That gives the legislature plenty of time to listen to the people of Wisconsin. Hold hearings around the state and get input from Wisconsinites on what the redistricting process should look like. Take the time to learn from other states that have implemented independent redistricting commissions since 2011, like Colorado and Michigan, and others that have had a long history of nonpartisan redistricting, such as California and Iowa. That did not happen. So the League of Women Voters Ad Hoc Redistricting Committee, with the support of the Fair Maps Coalition, did just that. What we found was unsurprising. Wisconsinites want legislative map drawing process out of the hands of legislators of either party. The people of Wisconsin want fair maps that accurately represent our communities and allow us to make our voices heard. The draft proposal for independent redistricting commission legislation that we are delivering to members of the state legislature, with your help, today is based on the best practices from the states I mentioned in my 2023 testimony. Up next is Deborah Crommiller, Executive Director of the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, to tell you more about the proposal.
Thank you, Carlene. Not just for those wonderful words, but for 2 years of fabulous work. Good afternoon, everyone. Good. Welcome, all of you who have been the champions for fair maps in Wisconsin for oh so long. I am pleased to be the chair of the Fair Maps Coalition and the executive director for the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin. Today, we are presenting our elected Assembly and Senate members with draft legislation that would ensure Wisconsin creates an independent redistricting model to ensure that we have fair maps and fair representation in our state for future generations. As Carlene mentioned, the League's Ad Hoc Committee has been studying best practices for creating an independent redistricting commission and ensuring what happens in Wisconsin is right for Wisconsin. Today, the proposal we are sharing with the legislature creates a roadmap for how Wisconsin can move from our current politically driven map drawing process to a citizen-led, independent redistricting model that will ensure that Wisconsin will have legislative districts that do not protect incumbents, does not favor a party over the people, or silence the voices of community members from across the state that deserve to be heard and have their votes counted. The proposed independent redistricting commission, funded by the legislature, will have access to the experts and legal support needed to create fair maps. The commission will, in the legislation we are proposing, use a transparent, open process soliciting public comment throughout and will not end up in a group of folks hunkering down in some back room to draw maps that ensure that the party keeps their seats and that the people in the state of Wisconsin, the people they represent, do not need to be heard. For a long time, the League of Women Voters and the Fair Maps Coalition have been educating the public about gerrymandering and why political gerrymandering undermines our representative form of government. Whether that's the gerrymander we had here in Wisconsin, or the gerrymanders we see in Illinois or Massachusetts, political power, once tasted, is hard to give up. Creating a citizen-led, independent redistricting commission is the only way to ensure that Wisconsin will have fair maps after the 2030 census and all subsequent census cycles. The committee is not the only body that supports this. For decades, some of our legislatures in the state of Wisconsin on both sides of the aisle have been advocating for fair maps. We know the good work that Dale Schultz and the now deceased Senator Tim Cullen did was instrumental in helping all Wisconsin understand that gerrymandering undermines good government. Another champion for fair maps joins us now to share his perspective. Senator Jeff Smith has supported fair maps literally for decades. He will join us now and tell you why.
Thank you, Deb. At least you didn't say Jeff Smith, the old guy who's been doing this for decades. That's close enough. I know. So there's so much to revisit here, but the fact that you're here, your persistence matches my persistence. That's why I'm here. Gerrymandering maps kept me out of the legislature after I had been in the assembly in the past for 8 years. I finally broke through and came back in the Senate because I'm persistent as well, and I want to thank you for not giving up. That's so important. We're almost there. We're almost there. And so, as far back as 2009, when I was a part of a majority, because by the way, the Republicans have held a majority in this legislature, in this building, 30 out of the last 32 years. Ooh. That happens because they have that power to draw those maps. Thanks, Brad. But in 2009, I was chair of the elections committee. That was my choice. I wanted to make these changes. Spencer Black, who himself for decades had been promoting, we need to have a system that represents people, not the elected officials who choose their own districts. He authored that bill. I was second on it. We had a hearing on it. It is the only time that we have had a hearing on a redistricting proposal to change how we do this. And I always question that. I always ask this. What are they afraid of? And I mean, what are legislators afraid of? What are they afraid of? If they truly believe in what they stand for, not that I'm reading it anyway. I've always thought that. If you really believe in yourself and in what you have to offer, what are you afraid of? It tells you that they themselves don't believe in what they're selling you. Right? They don't believe in what they're selling you. And trust me, when we talk, we could go on about the money in politics as well when we talk about what they're selling you. This is so critical. The most critical piece to saving our democracy. And I appreciate so much for this, what we're being handed today as a starting document and how it should be done. But I'm going to tell you another little piece of recent history. All the legislators up here will recall just a year or so ago when Robin Voss had an epiphany that, hey, I was at a convention or conference and I heard about this redistricting idea of using the Iowa model. Like he'd never heard about it before. I just thought, I was just fascinated by it, that he gets away with selling things like that like it's real. He never heard of it before, but the reason he liked it by that time was that they discovered how they could get around the whole process by voting against it, bringing it back, voting against it, bringing it back, and by that time, then the third time, it's all up to them and it doesn't go back. They figured out the flaw in that model, and so have we, and that is why we need a Wisconsin model. A Wisconsin model that works for all of us. And I am so excited to have been a part of this for a long time, and to continue to be a part of this. It is why, actually, I plan on coming back for another 4 years, because I see the writing on the wall. That we're going to get there now. We're going to get there. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. So with that, I want to introduce my colleague and partner in this endeavor, Deb Andraka.
Thank you, Senator. I am State Representative Deb Andraka,
And if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I'd be here in front of the state capitol, I would have thought you were crazy. But in about 2019, I called my state representative because that's what you do when you don't like public policy. And for me, it was gun laws. I was a substitute teacher. I was working in classrooms. We had to do lockdown drills. And I just couldn't understand why all of my neighbors wanted background checks. They wanted red flag laws. They thought we needed to do something better on gun policy. And why doesn't my state rep agree with me? So I called him. And called him again, and eventually he stopped returning my calls. So I brought my daughter to a town hall meeting so that she could talk about what it's like being a student in classrooms today and why we need better gun laws. And shortly thereafter, he stopped having town halls. And I couldn't understand, as more and more legislators refuse to even meet or talk to their constituents, how do they possibly get reelected? Well, the answer was gerrymandering, because we had some of the most gerrymandered maps in the state. So at that point, I realized that nothing was going to change in this building unless we changed some of the people who were in that building. So I decided to run for office. I had never run for office before. Quite frankly, I didn't know how hard it was going to be. But I ended up winning, becoming one of just 3 people to flip a district in a decade. And my message is, it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't cost millions of dollars for a majority of someone's constituents to vote them out. But gerrymandering made it virtually impossible to do that. So I'm here to tell everyone, and I wish some of my Republican colleagues were here too, that you should, as a legislator, you should not fear fair maps, because we should all be able to win on our message, not our maps. And if you work hard and you serve your constituents and you're listening to your constituents and responding to their needs, that's how you should keep your job, not because you happen to have the gerrymandering pen when the year ended in 0. That's not the way our government was supposed to work. So I am looking forward to having a legislature that is willing to work across the aisle to get things done for the people who send us here. We work for you, not the other way around, and our districts do not belong to any individual legislator. They belong to the people who live in them, and that's what these fair maps are. So it's time for us to get a system to ensure that every 10 years we're not staring down the dark tunnel of gerrymandering once again, and to give that pen back to the people where it belongs. So thank you. And now I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Francesca Hahn. So this is what democracy looks like, right? The Fair Maps Coalition and all of you have been doing what legislators should have been doing for years. You are traveling across the state, you're holding town halls, you're educating folks on the importance of ending gerrymandering, and you're building community right over there, as well as making sure that current voters and future voters understand the importance of having true representation. And instead of doing the work of strengthening democracy, both my colleagues on either side of the aisle are sitting through public hearings, listening to bills that nobody's asking for, right? And if we're going to hold public hearings and actually have a true democratic process, we need to make sure that we have fair maps and permanent fair maps. Because it should be the people who have the power to choose their elected officials, not elected officials choosing their voters. Gerrymandering is bad for democracy, regardless of what party you identify with. And if we want the will of the people to become the law of the land,
we have to have representative democracy that is going to make sure that we can actually have debate, that we are holding hearings on the things that the majority of Wisconsinites want and have been demanding. You all have been demanding a fairer process for years, and we made good process thanks to you, good progress, thanks to you all when we got fairer maps in February of 2023. But y'all did that work. No complacency, though. No complacency when it comes to gerrymandering. We need permanent fair maps, an independent redistricting commission. My colleagues and I are going to continue to fight for that every day that we are here in the legislature, and join you all in making sure that we are doing the work with you and letting more and more people know the importance of strengthening democracy depends on each of us knowing what we need to do to have true representative democracy, and that is ending gerrymandering. Thank you so much, everyone, for your work and for being here today.
Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to our amazing speakers and supporters who have probably heard from us more than they want, but that's the whole purpose of representatives listening to their constituents. So again, I'm Yuseli Flores. I'm the organizing director with the Wisconsin Fair Maps Coalition, and I get to close us off with a couple calls to action, as well as one action that you can all do right now. So we are going to, and I think I can say this, safely storm the Capitol with an independent redistricting commission draft proposal in hand, as well as an executive summary, so a cheat sheet in case folks don't want to read all 18 pages, but they should, and a brochure. So if you all can just stick around, we can help you find your legislative official so you can help us hand deliver one to your assigned representative. And there's not enough of us here, so if you can tackle 2 or 3, that would really help us, and it'll help us get home to Milwaukee easier and quicker. Can I just get a raise of hands of the folks that have attended one of our public hearings? Thank you. That made me emotional because we've been working day in and day out to be in Menominee, IE, 40 minutes away from Minnesota, and Menominee, EE, Falls, and Milwaukee, and up and down Door County, in every corner as we possibly can. There are some coming up, so those folks that didn't raise their hands, we have one coming up in Rhinelander, Evansville, Whitewater, Kenosha, Racine, Fox Valley, another one in Madison, and one in Lake Geneva in 2026. So please go to the fairmapsuite.com website to find a public hearing near you. And if you're interested in hosting one, again, you can submit a speaker request and we'll show up, and if we can't show up, we'll join you virtually. We have technology now, so we can do that. Our goal is to have 30 public hearings. We're at 27 already, so only 3 of you for 3 more. That'd be amazing. Again, I'm going to close this off with a couple of chants, but please see Vicki over there holding the End Gerrymandering sign to pick up a draft proposal, an executive summary, a brochure, and to find your legislative official's office. Again, if you can tackle 2 or 3, that'd be amazing. That'll help us. So again, a round of applause for all of you and all of our speakers. We are so lucky to do this work alongside all of you. I am so lucky to be in community with you all and to be seen with you all. So I'm going to say, what do we want? And you're going to say an IRC, because we thought Independent Redistricting Commission was too long. So, what do we want? IRC. What do we want? IRC. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? IRC. When do we want it? Now. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Once these legislators get these independent redistricting legislation draft proposals, call them up, ask them if they read it. Make sure that they are hearing from you about what you want.